Protect your privacy online with the best VPN for gaming, ExpressVPN, and visit expressvpn.com/GhillieMaster, linked in the description, to find out how you can get 3 months free. The jetpack has a long history in the GTA franchise, with its first appearance dating back to 2004's GTA San Andreas. And ever since the release of Grand Theft Auto 5, players speculated if the jetpack was part of the Mount Chiliad mural, as the bottom right picture shows a stick figure with what looks to be a jetpack on his back. This very well could have been planned for single-player content, but as we all know, that never came to fruition. And instead, in 2017's Doomsday Heist update, we finally saw the release of the jetpack, with an official name, the Mammoth Thruster. Unfortunately, many players were underwhelmed with the jetpack that we got in GTA Online though, and I have to agree with this statement. I feel as if it could have been so much more than what we got, because what we got was essentially a small and agile helicopter. So in this video, we're going to give the jetpack some improvements to hopefully bring it up a level in terms of its uses and its fun factor, because the jetpack was always one of the most fun vehicles to play around with back in San Andreas. So where did it go wrong? For starters, it felt more like a helicopter and less like a jetpack, and I think this is where most of the community complaints come in. There are these restrictions in place that prevent you from doing dangerous and wacky maneuvers, and in turn make the vehicle just not as fun to fly. Like I said earlier, you have to treat this like a glorified small helicopter and less like a jetpack, and it shouldn't be that way. The other issues are with its weaponry. The machine guns are just terrible no matter which way you put it. It's hard enough to aim the machine guns on this vehicle, and when they don't do any damage, what's the point of even using them? And the missiles are basically buzzard missiles, so those need some work too. And that brings us to the objectives of this rebalance, and the first one is going to be to take a look at the handling of the jetpack and change it up a bit so that it's more fun to fly and less restrictive in what you can do with it. This will make more sense once you see the results. Other than that, we're going to give the weapons some slight touch-ups to make them a bit more useful, and I'm going to throw in a little surprise in as well. One thing we want to avoid here is creating another Oppressor Mark II, because we have to remember that the jetpack is still a small and agile target just like the Oppressor, so careful considerations are made to make sure that does not happen, and as a result the missiles will not see a buff to their tracking. Now getting right into the handling changes, the first change that I made was to the thrust value. This dictates how much force the aircraft's engines have. The higher the value, the faster it's going to fly, and the more acceleration it's going to have. I gave it a slight increase from 0.7 to 1.2 to make it a bit more nimble in the air. Next is the side slip multiplier. This affects how much the aircraft changes direction when pressing the LB and RB buttons when flying. Again, I gave it a slight increase to 0.012. The next two I'm going to go over together since they both relate to the overall handling of the aircraft, the roll multiplier and the pitch multiplier. The roll multiplier dictates how aggressive the vehicle will move when banking it from left to right. It's actually kind of hard to roll the jetpack without flipping it over because of its small size, so this one isn't as noticeable as the pitch multiplier is. And the pitch multiplier is how aggressive the front and back movements of the helicopter are, so like when you tilt up and down to aim. I increased both of those values in almost proportional amounts from the original values, which makes the jetpack overall have more reactive handling. The biggest change though is in the attack lift and attack dive multipliers. Now in layman's terms, these values are your auto stabilization. The higher the value, the more resistance there is when you try to do flips with the helicopter. And this is also the main reason why the jetpack behaves like a helicopter, because it has the same auto stabilization functions that a helicopter does. By decreasing both of those values to 0, you have much more control over the aircraft to do cool stunts and maneuvers in the air, and for the jetpack, it makes it a whole lot more fun to fly. Here are a few handling comparisons I put together between the current jetpack that we have in GTA Online and the rebalanced one to demonstrate. You can just do so much more without the game hindering you. It not only gives the jetpack a fun element, seeing what kind of tricks you can do with the flips, but it gives it a very big skill gap as it's also much more challenging to master. Much like how I imagine a jetpack would be in real life, just extremely dangerous, and if you make one wrong move, you're probably going to get severely injured or killed. Now getting into the weapons, the machine guns on the jetpack are used by, if I had to guess, like 5 people. Some of you may not even know that the jetpack had a machine gun option for its weapons, and that's because they're just bad. You combine the weak machine guns with the jetpack being pretty hard to aim with, and you get a set of weapons which are just useless. So what I did was change the crappy default jetpack machine guns into the guns that are on the buzzard. The rate of fire was doubled from 750 RPM to 1500 RPM. The spin times I removed because it gives the guns an uncomfortable delay when you want to fire due to the quick handling, and by the time the guns are ready to fire, you're already off target and have to readjust because of the handling. And then I got rid of the alternate wait time so that both guns shoot simultaneously without switching off. And the result is a much more powerful and useful gun that can blow up cars in a matter of seconds of constant fire if you're accurate. Take a look. I know people in the comments are going to say that this is OP, but you have to remember that this is a machine gun that requires a lot of aim in order to use effectively, so when you hit shots with it, you should be rewarded. And even with this gun, more people are still going to venture towards the missiles regardless. It's just how people work. The missiles lock on and aim for you, the machine guns don't. The missiles I also gave a slight buff to. Right now the jetpack missiles are basically the buzzard missiles. You fire 2 and then have to wait a few seconds before being able to fire 2 again. And this is quite lame, let's be honest. I tested many different rebalances for the missiles, and what I felt was best was just a little buff to what they already do. So what I did was change the reload times from 4 to 2.5. This is the amount of time you have to wait after firing the 2 missiles on the original jetpack, so you can fire them more often. And then I increased the rate of fire of the missiles so it feels like a 2 missile barrage that you fire before having to wait the cooldown. And because you can fire 2 missiles in rapid succession, it makes them a bit better because you can quickly recover from a missed shot, and they're just way more fun to use in general. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't want the jetpack to become the next Suppressor Mark II, so I avoided giving the missiles a tracking buff. I just wanted the jetpack to be a better version of what it can already do. And these missiles do the job just right. There's also the case with the missile count. In single player, the missile ammo count isn't active, so it's always unlimited, but I do think the cap should be up to 60 or so missiles because the tracking isn't that good, so you're gonna miss more often. I mentioned a surprise at the beginning of the video, and what I tried to do was give the jetpack the ability to use drive-by weapons just like you could back in GTA San Andreas. And in order to do that, I had to give the jetpack some drive-by info because it's normally set to null or none. And since the jetpack is coded as a helicopter, I had to give it the drive-by info for a helicopter or else it just wouldn't work. So I set it to drive-by heli front right, which is the passenger seat drive-by data for helicopters. The pilot seat doesn't have any drive-by data because the pilot never has access to the weapons while flying. Then I removed the driver no drive-by flag, and that's all there is to it. You now have drive-by weapons in the jetpack. It's not perfect by any means. You can see when I shoot the gun, my guy is just sitting down in the jetpack because he uses the helicopter's animation. The controls also don't work very well for it because the same controls for drive-by weapons are also used to fly the vehicle, so if this was to actually become a thing, there would have to be some additional changes made. But I wanted to give it a try to see what it was like, and for a concept, it does just fine. Anyways, that is the rebalanced jetpack with some changes made to its handling and its weapons. I cannot tell you how much time I've spent just flying this new one around, trying out the crazy handling and trying out different things you can do with it. It's a lot of fun for sure. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section, and if you have a suggestion for a vehicle you want to see rebalanced next, make sure to comment it down below as well. And if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like as well as subscribe to my channel for more guide and PvP related content. Huge thank you to all my channel members for your support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can add these to the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.